Hello and thank you for watching Times Television. President Lazarus Chakwera is this afternoon appearing before Parliament to answer members' questions. Stay tuned as Times TV gives you a live broadcast of the event in Parliament. Mtsogoleri wa dziko lino Dr. Lazarus Chakwera akhala akuonekera mnyumba ya malamulo masanawa kuyankha mafunso a aphungu. Mukhale pomwepo pamene Times Television ikupatsireni zochitika mnyumba ya malamulo.
It's about time. It's about time. Arindui mwayi umene woti atakufusa mafunso pa nkhani zofunikira kwa president pa kudzera pa imene amati standing order 70A ya nyumba ya malamulo. Ndiye tikayang'ana pa order paper imene yatulusidwa lero pali mafunso okwanira 10 kusonyeza kuti aphungu ali ndi chidwi kwambiri kukozera nkhani kwambiri zimene iwo akuona kuti zimatuluka mnyumba ya malamulo komanso ndizoti akufunikira kuti a president atayankhulapo.
Now, wanena kuti pa order paper pakoneka mafunso 10 kusonyeza kuti mafunso a president amapatsira zimakhalanso bwanji tiziti mafunso ndomwewa kapena pamakhalanso mafunso ena zimakhala bwanji kwini.
Nyumba ya malamulo imakhala ndi imene amati order paper imathandizira kukhala ngati program imene ziyendere koma pamakhalanso mwayi woti aphungu amatokhala ndi ina amene amati supplementary questions then ndizoti 10 amene ali pa order paper amatokhala ngati oyambira kuti agenda yathu lero program yathu tiyenda chonchi koma amakalolanso kuwapasa aphungu aja mwayi wokuti a president akayankha funso lija atheso kukhala wina khala kuti ali ndicho funso lina lonjezera lofanana ndi funso linafunsidwa lija amatha kulola kuti nayenso afunse kuti tengera mwayi umene kuti a president ayankheso.
Now, mwina mkumano umene ukhale wautali bwanji komanso ukhala osiyana bwanji kuphatikiza ndi kufananiza manga ndi mikumano imene aphungu amene amachita sabata ino?
Tikayang'ana pano ti mu wiki yachinayi ya mkumano wa parliament imeneyi tasala ndi wiki yomaliza koma wiki ino ndi wiki imene yaoneka kuti inali ya busy kwambiri chifukwa wiki imene yathaija aphungu amayang'ana kwambiri za nkhani ya budget ndiye atathana nkhani ya budget pano alowa nkhani ya mafunso kuchokera kwa aphungu komanso ndondomeko ina imene amati ma ministerial statement muchizungu oti tikati tione dzulo ndi zana unduna ochokera ku education wa maphunziro komanso undunaso wa ministry of education yomweyo atapanga nawonso anapereka ministry of tourism anaperekaso nawonso ndondomeko yawo komanso tinaonanso a ministry of trade azamalonda anaperekaso nawonso statement yawo kusonyeza kuti wiki ino ndi wiki imene parliament inali ndizo chitika zochuluka kwambiri.
I am, you had a chance of looking at the order paper. Tell us, how does it look like?
The order paper is quite very detailed. There are 10 questions on the order paper today, and the parliamentarians under Standing Order 70A have an opportunity of posing these questions to the head of state. Most of the issues that are on this order paper are issues of national interest, issues that the president during his campaign, running under the Tonse Alliance campaign, promised a number of things, and some of these things are the ones that members of parliament would like to pose questions on to the head of state for responses.
I saw the issue of duty-free week among the questions. Tell us more about that.
It's an interesting thing, you know, that was promised by the Tonse Alliance campaign when they were coming in, the duty-free week, and most members of parliament are much more eager to hear how the government is going to implement this. And some other things that are of major interest are issues that are of national concern, that most Malawians are very much interested to hear from the head of state. The issue of the National Youth Service, which everyone in Malawi agrees that is something that if done, it will help in shaping the youth of Malawi and also enabling us to have a development-oriented mind.
Many thanks indeed. mwa zinthu zikuluzikulu zimene aphungu amene wanditha kuyembekezeka kukambirana masana ano. Mtsogoleri wa dziko lino ali mu nyumba imeneyi ya malamulo, poti nyumba imeneyi imakhala ndi malamulo, ndiye amadikira ndithu speaker amene ndithu afika pakadali pano. Ndiye pakadali pano tikupatsireni bwino lomwe timvetsere.
Let us pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness has appointed the office of the rulers and parliament for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we ask you to behold with your abundant favors your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this land. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
General business, item A, communication from the chair.
Good afternoon, honorable members, and welcome back into the chamber. In a special way, let me welcome into the chamber His Excellency, the President, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera. It is an honor for us that you are here in the House with us, Your Excellency. Honorable members, as you are aware, the President is here this afternoon to answer questions under Section 89, Part 4 of the Constitution of the Republic of Malawi and Standing Order 70, Part A. According to Standing Order 70, Part A, the procedure for handling the President's question in the House is as follows. The owner of the question will be called to confirm on whether the question appearing on the order paper is indeed his or hers. And I would like to stress, I just want a confirmation, I don't want any preambles. Once confirmed, the President will be asked to provide a response to the question. A maximum of 3 supplementary questions on each original question, if any, will be allowed, starting with the owner of the question, if he or she has a supplementary question to his or her original question. May I remind the House that a member has only 1 minute to ask a supplementary question, and therefore there is no need to start your question with a preamble. Let me remind the House that a supplementary question should arise directly from the answer given to the original question. A supplementary question which intends to introduce new matters which are not related to the original question will not be entertained. And question time to the President is supposed to last for 1 hour, 30 minutes. Extension of the President's question time can only be permitted to allow the President to answer any remaining questions from the scheduled 5 on the order paper after the expiry of 1 hour, 30 minutes. Honorable members, this marks the end of my announcement. I thank you for your attention.
General business, item B, question to the President under Standing Order 70, Part A.
Honorable Member for Nkhotakota Northeast. The mics, please. You try another one? Can you try? Control room, can you check the mics for us, please? Are the ones at the back working? Member from Kotakota, use the mics at the back. It looks like those are working. Sorry. I'm sorry, Honorable Member.
This one.
Just go on Zoom.
Yeah,
Go on Zoom.
Honorable Member for Kotakota Northeast, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Speaker, I rise to confirm that question PQT6 appearing in today's order paper is indeed coming from the people of Kotakota Northeast. I submit. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Kotakota Northeast. Your Excellency the President.
Okay. Okay. Guess I'll use this. Madam Speaker, with your indulgence, let me say a word or two before I proceed to answer the question from Kotakota Northeast. Madam Speaker, I count myself honored to stand before this august House to answer questions from the people's representatives regarding matters of state that affect them. In fact, not only do I feel honored to be here, but I also feel duty-bound to comply with the law that requires this, and feel morally bound to fulfill the promise I made to Malawians to do so. However, Madam Speaker, I ask that you indulge me by acquiescing to a small request I wish to make of this House on this occasion, if I may. The last time I stood on this floor to do this, there were honorables in the audience we have since lost to the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. in the 188 days that have passed since the last time I was here to answer members' questions, we as a nation have lost 2 cabinet ministers, late Honorable Sadiq Mia, Minister of Transport and Public Works, and late Honorable Lingsonberg Kanyama, Minister of Local Government, as well as 3 non-cabinet members of this House, namely late Honorable John Chikalimba, late Honorable Jacqueline Chikuta, and late Honorable James Bond Kamambi. Knowing that these were not only active contributors to deliberations of this House, but were also personal friends to all of you, I ask that you receive my deepest condolences on these heavy losses, Madam Speaker. With your permission, Madam Speaker, I ask all the members of this House to stand and join me in observing a minute of silence in honor of these fallen soldiers. Thank you. Madam Speaker and honorable members, I thank you for your indulgence. And now I place myself at the disposal of those members who have questions I must answer. I submit. Madam Speaker, Kwagwanji Northeast asked the question, when should Malawians expect the commencement of duty-free week and reduction of passport fees, which was promised to be at 14,000 kwacha each passport? Madam Speaker, I want to thank the honorable member of Kwagwanji Northeast for the question. To answer that question, it's important to remember the historical context of our promises to Malawians. As you know, we have had 2 presidential campaigns in the last 2 years. One in 2019 and another in 2020. In the 2019 campaign, MCP and UTM contested separately and put forward separate manifestos, with MCP launching its manifesto 9th March 2019 and UTM launching its manifesto 23rd March 2019. The 2 manifestos had some promises in common and other promises that were unique. Promises that were similar included establishing universal fertilizer subsidy, subjecting cabinet ministers to performance contracts, making governance institutions like the Anti-Corruption Bureau, National Audit Office, and the Financial Intelligence Agency independent, operationalizing the Access to Information Act, creating jobs for young people, promoting large-scale farming through mechanization, developing road and rail infrastructure through ambitious projects, boosting economic activity through value addition and industrialization, and establishing a special school to train qualified Malawians for government and foreign service, and implementing public sector reforms. Meanwhile, the promises that were unique to the MCP manifesto included increasing the minimum wage to 50,000 kwacha, raising the tax-free threshold of pay-as-you-earn tax from 35 to 100,000 kwacha, changing the start of the fiscal year from 1st July to 1st April, restructuring the public service, filling parastatal boards with professionals, ensuring the President appears before Parliament to answer questions, launching a National Youth Service, to name a few. And similarly, promises that were unique to the UDM manifesto included establishing a duty-free week, reducing the cost of passports, depoliticizing the Malawi Enterprise Development Fund, MEDEF, and removing electricity connection fees. So when MCP and UTM agreed to form an alliance together with their partners for the last year's fresh presidential election, we shortlisted a few of the key promises that we had in common and put them on a flyer that we shared with Malawians. But upon assuming office, we have been consulting among ourselves and engaging various MDAs, that is to say ministries, departments, and agencies, on the best approach and timeline for implementing the promises that are unique to each manifesto, making sure to do so with sensitivity to the macroeconomic conditions of Malawi, the bad contractual obligations we have discovered are in force from the previous administration, and the staggered implementation strategy we have had to adopt in view of the pandemic. Once we are ready to implement these promises, I will inform Malawians accordingly.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Speaker, I want the President to tell the nation, according to his answers, we've heard who promised what, and we know which party did what, whatever. So does it mean that by the time these parties were making promises, they never consulted the technocrats on the contractual obligations? And if yes, when should we?
Order, honorable members, can I have order, please? Order, please. Is the honorable member from Kwagwanji?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for your protection. I'm repeating to say, by the time the parties were making an alliance, because each party had its own promises, did they consulted the technocrats to consider of the contractual obligations? And in addition to that, Madam Speaker, I know we have the National Planning Commission in this country. How are they going to harmonize these promises? And when should the Malawians expect this to happen? Because I know by now the President knows exactly these contractual obligations, they are going to expire and such a date. So when should the Malawians expect? I submit, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Very much, Nkota Northeast. Your Excellency, there's a supplementary question from Honourable Member for Kota North East. Your Excellency, please.
Through you, Madam Speaker, let me again thank Kota North East for this supplementary question. And she covers basically three things. When will the promises be fulfilled? How will you harmonize these promises vis-a-vis National Planning Commission, and we could say Malawi 2063. And then, what about the contractual obligations? Were you not even aware of these? Were the technocrats not able to foresee that? Now, I have paraphrased, but I believe that's the gist of the question. And so let me start with the contractual obligations. When we were making our promises to Malawians, we knew what Malawians needed and wanted. What we didn't know was that this government was entering into, that is the previous one, was entering into contracts that were in favor of people they would contract, and not in favor of people they were serving, which is the Malawi. Sometimes you even wonder whether there were any lawyers representing people's interest in this country advising government then to sign such contracts. I can go into details, but I'm not going to. Madam Speaker, these contractual arrangements and many others are some of those issues that I have mandated the Vice President to look into, because this country is being defrauded by its own people in leadership. When we launched Vision 2063 as our own version after the African Union vision, but in tandem with United Nations development goals, we have stated that whatever party, whichever party, whatever manifesto and whichever manifesto, they would have to align themselves to that particular vision. And consequently, what we are stating is that working with ministries, departments, and agencies, we will make sure those things are subjected to that litmus test. Does it contribute to our overall big picture that we have for the country? That is the national vision. And that's how the National Planning Commission that you mentioned comes in. And when some of these will require mere policy direction shift, others will require involvement of this House in terms of legislation, like we have seen happen. I have stated that real soon, when we are ready with this, I will make an announcement as to when exactly that will be. But I can promise you, I'm going to promise the people in Kwagwanji Northeast, I can promise Malawians, these promises will be fulfilled. If you wanted a year and a date and a month, I'm saying I cannot give it to you now. Thank you.
Honorable member for, is it Nkatabe?
Nkatabe Southeast.
Southeast, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me a chance to ask a supplementary question to the President. Mr. President, considering that there is a desperate futile attempt by those who had nothing to do with the victory of Tonsa Alliance to force Malawians to believe that all the promises can be fulfilled overnight, the COVID-19 pandemic and the competing needs notwithstanding, would it not be better to have, or at some point, should Malawians expect a list of priorities among priorities, Mr. President? Finally, let me say that when an army of sheep is led by a lion, that army has got a fair chance of succeeding, unlike when an army of lions is led by a sheep. Mr. President, the people of Nkatabe Southeast believe that they're being led by a lion. Thank you.
Nkatabe Southeast. Your Excellency the President.
I always enjoy Nkatabe Southeast. Madam Speaker, most everyone would recognize the fact that promises made cannot be fulfilled overnight. What the Speaker who just resumed his seat means is that why don't you have priorities within priorities so that people know a timeline and frame as to which follows which is pretty reasonable, a question in my mind. Because one has to understand. Now, perhaps I didn't make myself clear in defining the priorities within priorities so that Malawians are able to understand that within this period we can do this, within this period we can do that. But I'll give you an example. We knew that before this season is over, the issue of fertilizer had to be prioritized. Because you couldn't jump over that season. Oh yeah, I know there were others who were saying, quote in vernacular, end of quote. And yet, the rains at that time hadn't come. The fields hadn't been prepared. Nothing had been planted. What we see now is different as the season comes to an end. That was prioritizing. We also knew that in certain cases, workers needed help almost immediately. That is why in this House you passed legislation to authorize, even through the appropriation bill, that minimum wage be raised and the tax bracket be accepted and legalized. Because we wanted people to have some extra money with them at the end of a month. That is prioritizing. When we were coming to the end of 2020, I wished everyone well, and then I made a statement. I said, now we will begin to tell you exactly which program will proceed what, or which one of the promises will be tackled in what form. Unfortunately, at the crossover, we were hit real bad by a second wave of the pandemic. And then I appealed to Malawians, and I made a statement which some people deliberately misconstrued. I said, because we're having to change course so we can still stay steady with our mission, we may have to postpone certain activities regarding the implementation of certain things. And people thought I had reneged on the promises that I made during the campaign. Others went to town saying Tonse government is no longer interested in fulfilling the promises. But understood within the context that I was stating these things, reading the message and listening to it carefully, one understands that if you are headed for Blantyre or from Zuzu, let's say from Zuzu now, because the road is so bad, you actually didn't know at a certain stage that you would have to slow down so bad, and yet you did not suspend your mission to go to Mzuzu. So this has nothing to do with suspending any of our promises. It has everything to do with adapting, in some ways, slowing down. But once we hit the part of the road that is good, then we put our foot to the pedal so we can cover up for that time we wasted. And all I want to say is this. Now, we thank God, the figures are showing us that some kind of normalcy can be experienced, even though we should not lose the vigilante spirit to make sure we don't have a third wave or any other type wave. Then we can begin to really get involved in activities that resuscitate this economy. Madam Speaker, sometimes my heart bleeds when you have a whole budget and all you are doing is servicing debt, all you're doing is paying salaries and allowances, and all you're doing is paying pensions. Very little about development, very little about anything else. I want to change that. But when I say that, and when I say that we would need to have sacrifices made from all of us, then you become the bad guy because everybody wants to consume and to consume and to consume more and produce less and less and less. That kind of country cannot develop. This is the reason we must stop politicizing these issues and get to work, all of us, so we all can develop. Particularly the poor farmers who sometimes are so treated in such a fashion that they are the hardest workers only to subsidize the fine life of a few of us who take advantage of them. We want to change that. So we will come up with a priority within priorities, just like I have indicated. We already were doing that, but we need to communicate that to the rest of the country. Thank you.
We move to question QT7, Zombali Sanjara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to confirm indeed that question PQT7 is from the people of Zombali Sanjara. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Zombali Sanjara. Your Excellency the President.
Madam Speaker, through you, let me express deep gratitude to the honorable member for Zombali Sanjara for this important question. And the question is, what does your government plan to do to ensure that 2025 general elections will not be marred with violence, as has been the case in some parts of the country in previous elections? First of all, Madam Speaker, we need to acknowledge that the 2020 fresh presidential election was peaceful, credible, and the best in our nation's history. As a nation, we were able to do that by having strong stakeholder institutions playing their unique role in delivering their constitutional mandate within Malawi's democratic framework. The election would not have been peaceful if the Malawi Police Service failed to do its job. It would not have been peaceful if Malawi Electoral Commission failed to do its job. It would not have been peaceful if the Malawi Defense Force failed to do its job. It would not have been peaceful if civil society organizations failed to do their job. It would not have been peaceful if citizens and voters failed to do their job. And it certainly would not have been peaceful if political parties had failed to commit to peaceful means of campaigning. My administration is therefore committed, Madam Speaker, to extending the peace and success of the 2020 fresh presidential election to future elections by empowering the stakeholder institutions to deliver on their respective mandates. In fact, the instances of violence that have marred more recent by-elections were occasioned by the failure of some stakeholder institutions to do their job. As such, my administration will be taking a comprehensive approach that ensures peaceful elections by addressing the gaps that remain in our legislation, law enforcement, electoral management, logistical arrangements, media engagement, political engagement, regulatory framework, and voter engagement. And additionally, my administration's creation of the Ministry of Civic Education and National Unity will foster and promote reconciliation proactively to address the underlying historical wounds that get inflamed towards violence by the incendiary rhetoric of political leaders. Madam Speaker, in short, my administration will work with other stakeholders to provide the wherewithal and enabling environment for the delivery of peaceful elections, because my government needs other institutions to effect the following actions intended to foster peace. A, introducing better and harmonized electoral legislation, procedures, and regulations. B, enacting a legal framework for guaranteeing the financial and political autonomy of MEC. C, resourcing the comprehensive review of wards and constituency boundaries to ensure electoral equity. D, establishing a professional and efficient electoral commission secretariat. E, financing the acquisition of land to construct a purpose-built MEC head office in the capital. F, implementing the automation and modernization of all MEC's operating systems. And G, regularizing the proportional representation of MEC commissioners from political parties to ensure compliance with the Electoral Commission Act. I submit.
Honor of the question, Madam Speaker.
Oh, sorry. Honor of the question. Zomba Sanja, you have the floor, then Chitipa Sao.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for that response. But I think as Malawians, we need to begin to look to redefine what we mean by peaceful election. If our definition is low, definitely we'll begin to create fear among Malawians. We are aware that in the 2020 elections, in some polling stations, monitors were chased, abducted, in some cases beaten. We would like the head of state to condemn that.
Can
and
I have
also
order, honorable members, order, please.
Begin to take us to another level in terms of definition of a peaceful election. Madam Speaker, I would like the head of state to comment to that effect. In terms of raising, would the head of state like to raise our standards by what we mean by peaceful elections?
Yes,
Thank you,
honorable
Madam
member,
Speaker.
can you frame your statement in a question? Because we need a question and not a statement. So tell us what is the question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll come straight. I think the information I've given does give the background to the question. The question is, Mr. President, are you satisfied with the definition of a peaceful election when in actual fact we saw people being beaten, people being abducted, people missing during elections? Are you satisfied with that definition?
Thank you, Zomba Lisanja. Your Excellency the President.
Madam Speaker, let me thank Zomba Sanjara for this supplementary follow-up question. And his concern is a definition of peaceful election, thinking the president is not raising the bar high enough in the response, which was elaborate, that I gave. If you look at that response, Madam Speaker, you will see that I am not even lowering the standard. I'm so raising it beyond what DPP ever had. But if the state member has these concerns, when I discovered there was something there were some things not right with the election of 2019, presidential election. I said, I'm not going to accept this, I'm going to go to court. That's what I did. We have institutions in this country that should have acted on those issues. And if those stakeholders can be called to task even now, should he have evidence, let him do so. But we do not take generalizations. Let there be specifics. And then let's take to task who may have dropped the ball in that specific incident. Otherwise, I am still saying, am I satisfied? No, of course not. Was it ideal? No, that's why we are raising these issues so that we could have better democratic elections in the future. I didn't say that was the standard we stick with. I said it was more peaceful than any other. And we did it without any foreign observer. Malawi did it. You did it. Thank you.
Chitipa South, and then
thank you very much.
Then Lilongwe South, Mapuyu South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Firstly, allow me to thank God for his healing message on you. We missed you, Madam Speaker, and those of us from this side are very happy to see you back. Coming to the question, Madam Speaker, elections are a continuous process. It's a continuous process. And currently we are about to have the by-elections in some districts, quite a number of them. Now, bearing in mind that most of the controlling officers in some of those districts have been interdicted at a time when we are almost there, what assurance can His Excellency give Malawians that we are going to have free and fair by-elections in those districts without these controlling officers, DCs? And finally, is there any time frame when these controlling officers are going to be suspended, because most of the district councils are not operating accordingly with the caretaker DCs? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Member for Chitipa South, I think the last part of your question and the relation to the elections, remember our own standing orders, which we should not be breaking ourselves. You're talking about DCs and their positioning, and this is talking about peaceful elections. So the firing and whatever of the other part is what I think does not form part of the question. You need to give us a question related to this peaceful.
Madam Speaker, these are returning officers who have been fired at a time when we are about to have the by-elections. So my question is, are we going to have free and fair elections when these people have just been fired at the time when we are supposed to have elections?
Honourable Member for Chitipa South, I stand by what I said. This is talking about 2025 general election, and it's talking about the future general election. You are talking about current general election. So these two are not related. Thank you. Honourable Member for Lilongwe North.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for recognizing people of Mapuyu South to ask a supplementary question. Mapuyu South,
order, please.
Mapuyu South wonders if it is necessary to start discussing elections of 2025 while we have the pressing issues of COVID-19 vaccination, which is very important now. Thank you.
Member for Lilongwe. Can I have order, please? Honorable Member for Lilongwe Mapuyu. Honorable Member for Nzomba Lisanja, in his own right, is asking that question. He has the right to ask about future planning from the President. Now, relating elections and COVID, we are comparing apples and oranges. So he's got that right to ask a question about elections. Thank you. Sir West. West, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for recognizing the people of Mwanza West constituency and for giving them an opportunity to ask the head of state a supplementary question. Your Excellency, greetings from Mwanza West. The people of Mwanza West would like to find out from you, Your Excellency. We appreciate the work that your other ministries are doing in their respective, offices and ministries. However, if you look at the ministry which is responsible for making sure that we live peacefully in Malawi and there are no these political violence, it seems like not much has been happening under this ministry. Your Excellency, what's your plan as regards specifically to this ministry? Don't you think while you are looking at the other options to ensure that we live peacefully, you also look at this ministry critically? And then even if possible, I know there are some other ministers here who have performed well. Maybe do a shift and give the ministry to someone who will be able to perform. Because I feel this ministry is not doing much. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Well, leader of the
Madam Speaker, Mwanza West is asking something different from the original question. So I would like to ask you and just...
Yes, leader, leave that to me in terms of deciding. Honorable Member for Mwanza West, whilst appreciating honorable members, if we go back to our own standing orders, it is very clear. We should not be breaking our own rules. If we have questions, the President has always made himself available. You can deposit a question properly, but we're not going to be asking questions which are not related to our own questions that we have. So frame and give us the questions that are related to elections 2025. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, maybe just to clarify, through you, Madam Speaker, when His Excellency was responding to the initial question, he mentioned things like, working with various stakeholders, but also ensuring that he strengthens up some of the systems so that we have those peaceful things. So that was just my suggestion or my comment or my question to him to say, when he's looking at that, he should also make sure he looks at this, mother ministry, so that at least we have a ministry which is performing like the other ministries.
That is not a question, it is a statement then. Because what we need from you, Madam Member for Mwanza West, is a question. So you have to frame a question starting from the way I've guided you, so that it is formulated as a question and not as a statement.
Madam Speaker, and may His Excellency consider, that's my question, can he look at the ministry? Even if it means changing personnel, that was my question. To the ministry responsible.
Your Excellency, the President is saying in relation to the response on peace, I think that's where the honourable member is finding the link. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Speaker, let me thank Mwanza West for this supplementary question, and it is to do with assurances of peace. In my response originally to the question of ensuring peaceful elections in 2025, I mentioned various stakeholders. I wasn't evaluating stakeholders, and I'm not going to be involved in evaluating stakeholders at this stage because that was not the question. Thank you.
we have our colleagues on Zoom, Machinga East. Machinga East, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to find out from the President what his government has in place in order to curb the challenges women face during the campaign period, especially the use of abusive language or abuse of words by the male counterparts. And finally, I would like to recommend the President for the visits he has done by visiting the former presidents. I find the people of Machinga East find the visits that in a way the visit has unified the nation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Machinga East. Your Excellency.
Let me thank you, through the Speaker, Machinga East, for the compliment, but particularly with regard to the issue of protecting women during this time of campaign and the context in which Malawi finds itself, where many times women and girls are at the receiving end of ill treatment. This is a fight that all of us need to be engaged in. We will do the best to strengthen the structures and to make sure that we abide by the rule of law regarding any infringement vis-à-vis the treatment of women. I'm not sure if I understood the whole context, but I can assure Machinga East that she will be protected. And those who will not protect her and like her need to be dealt with. And it does not need to take a president to speak up for somebody to do what they are employed to do. This country needs to wake up. Every institution needs to work following the rules that are already there and the laws that are already there, because we want to stand for the rule of law. Thank you.
Exhausted 3 questions. We have exhausted 3 questions.
You blocked me, but I'm around, Madam Speaker.
Noted.
You may think I'm not around. I'm not on Zoom. These little boys have blocked me. Thank you.
Noted. Go to question PQT 8, Zomba Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing the people of Zomba Central to ask a question to the President. As such, I rise to confirm that question denoted PQT 8 is indeed coming from the people of Zomba Central. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Zomba Central. Your Excellency the President.
Madam Speaker, through you, let me express gratitude to Zomba Central for question PQT 8. And the question is, how is your government going to address economic and business opportunity challenges that may be brought about by government's decision to move the immigration headquarters to Lilongwe? Madam Speaker, The decision to move the immigration headquarters to Lilongwe was made by late President Bingu wa Mutharika in the first DPP administration. Under the most recent DPP administration, that directive began to be implemented to the point that the Department of Immigration acquired the old MTL building along Paul Kagame Road to house the immigration headquarters when it relocates to Lilongwe. As such, I am of the view that this is an example of a good idea conceived by a past administration that needs to be implemented by my administration because the practice of scrapping good projects from past administrations out of spite is not consistent with super high five principle of servant leadership. I wish to therefore assure all Malawians who loved President Bingu's vision that this is one dream of his that I will bring to fulfillment. For the sake of administrative efficiency of the Immigration Department, while also making immigration services accessible in all of Malawi's regions. I fully agree with President Bingu's foresight in promoting the agglomeration of government agencies for the sake of economic activity. He pursued this vision despite the fact that relocating the head offices of government institutions to the capital meant relocating them to a region he himself did not come from. He promoted the idea because he knew it would improve service delivery to all Malawians. And I promise Malawians that this focus on better service delivery to all Malawians would continue under my administration. As a case in point, when investors call the Malawi Investment and Trade Center, MITC, they often need a number of approvals for business and employment permits from the Immigration Department headquarters. As such, its relocation to the capital will improve service delivery by reducing costs and processing times. Notwithstanding, the southern and northern regions will be served by the regional offices there, so that there will be no less of service to Malawians living there. Thank you.
Excellency. Honorable member for Zomba. Oh, sorry, honor of the question and then Zomba.
Antonia.
Zomba Antonia, and then right at the end there, Machinga Northeast.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And also, I'd like to thank the President for the response given. However, I wanted to bring to your attention that much as the decision was made by the late President, but currently, Mr. President, you are on the steering wheel, where we can see a difference to what I'm about to ask. By moving immigration headquarters to Lilongwe, my fear with the people of Zomba Central is a replica of what happened to Zomba when the government institutions were moved from Zomba to Lilongwe. Zomba, the economic status of Zomba is almost zero. And this may be replicated to Blantyre with the claims that Makra and MRA is also about to be moved to Lilongwe. What plans do you have to see to it that there is equitable economic progress, growth and development in all the districts of Malawi other than Lilongwe only. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Zomba Lisanjala. Your Excellency the President.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you, and through you thank Zomba Central for the supplementary follow-up question. He is correct in observing that I am the current head of state. But I want to array his fears. One of the problems this country is facing is the fact that rather than allow the economy to grow through the private sector enlargement and SMEs, industries, mechanization, industrialization, and all of these things, we have let me backtrack. Yeah, I will use the word. We have misconceived the idea of economic development as being based on government institutions. There's something wrong when people want to make money in this country and all they think is to do with government business. That has to be changed. What plans do we have? You know I love Zomba. I lived there in my tender teen years. And I have always enjoyed Zomba. But what I want for Zomba and what I want for Blantyre, what I want from Zuzu, what I want for Karonga, what I want for Mangochi, I can name all of the cities, Msanje, is that they should, Mulanji, is that what you mean?
Yes, Your Excellency.
All right. Okay, so include every district. Yeah, and Mwanza too. And I know Neno is back here. But what I'd love is for real economic development that does not look at government as the biggest partner to work with. That has destroyed this nation. In fact, that has actually encouraged corruption. Let there be genuine production in this country. And then we won't have to worry about government offices leaving this town to go to that town. My idea is that what Zomba Central fears, because Zomba has experienced what they have experienced, should be looked at comprehensively as we align ourselves to Vision 2063, so that each year we are building a Malawi that is self-reliant, a Malawi that is prosperous for everyone, a Malawi that we can truly be proud to call home. And no city should be left behind. When somebody gets rich, it should not be at the expense of someone getting poor. We can all prosper and all cities can prosper. And we will do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Zomba Ntonya.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Fortunately or unfortunately, the question that I had has been tackled by my honorable brother from Zomba Ntonya. Thank you.
It was Machinga Northeast.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, Madam, for allowing the people of Machinga Northeast to ask a question to His Excellency, the State President. But before I do so, let me repeat what I said when I was complimenting the Minister of Agriculture, to congratulate His Excellency for the program of affordable inputs fertilizer, of which I said it will see Malawi having bumper yields.
Honorable member, honorable member for Machinga Northeast, please go straight to the question.
It's a preamble, Right Honorable Speaker, Madam.
No preambles, please.
Thank you. Right Honorable Madam Speaker, thank you very much for the advice. My question to the President is very simple. I just wanted to find out from the President to say, is it true that even the State House in Zomba, which is a historical house of this country, that it wants to be turned into the hospital? I'm asking this question because wherever the President goes, that means in that side there is money. I can agree with this. Just when last week in Thursday when he was in Zomba, a lot of women who sell groundnuts, bananas, they were regretting because they made a lot of sales because His Excellency was there. Is it true that even this State House is being turned into the hospital? Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Your Excellency, the President.
Madam Speaker, let me, through you, thank Machinga Northeast for the question. I will not hardly comment on the preamble except to say Malawians are the winners. But the question is it true that Zomba State House will be a hospital? Well, is it true that Bingu National Stadium will be a hospital? Because what we did is to make sure that everywhere people can access help because of the lethal pandemic that has hit us. Now, I'm told by the task force that Bingu has been decommissioned. When we said let's use the State House, I didn't mean to turn the State House into a hospital. And people in Zomba ought to understand that, because it was explained when fears were raised. Be that as it may, that State House has been run down. We need to make sure that it is maintained. This is part of our history. And maybe because you feel that there is business whenever I go there, they can sell groundnuts. So let me go stay there for a while, then you will know. But seriously speaking, let's not make conclusions when in an emergency we have done certain things. In fact, I was a young boy, and then I read in a bus that I had boarded going to secondary school. I was so young, my dad had to go with me. I'm embarrassed to say that, but I'm happy. I read somewhere, Nkhani galas, which being interpreted means if there is an accident, you push out this glass. But everybody knew that that wasn't the door. people use. In an emergency, that's what happens. In an emergency, that's how we use Zomba State House. But that's not to say that was meant to be what it will be. Thank you.
Member for Zip. Yeah, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving the people of Nchewu West a chance to ask His Excellency the State President, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, a question. Your Excellency, through you, Madam Speaker, I wanted to ask if there are any plans, deliberate plans, like that can replace economic activities in case like if the immigration is moved from Blantyre to Lilongwe. Is the Tonse government having any deliberate plans just to wipe out tears like my friend Zomba Sento, just to make sure that people should not be worried that the movement of this particular office going to Lilongwe is not going to have any negative impact? Thank you, Honorable, Right Honorable Speaker.
Your Excellency the President, thank you, Nchewu West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honorable Member Nchewu West was basically asking if there are plans to replace economic activities once these movements are taking place. And basically what I had said without so much as being specific was, yes, they are. And you know that for 26 or some years, Makata industrial area became dead. Industries, any industry guru in this country will tell you that there's hardly any industry we can talk about. And so to think that economic activities will depend on an office that is moved, that's the thing I'm saying. Let's not focus on that. Let's focus on making sure this country produces. This country is industrialized. This country begins to make the economy tick by encouraging the expansion of the private sector. So these are the plans, but it's not that government will be doing those plans. It's the people in this country which government makes the environment right for them to be able to prosper and make these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We now go to question. We've exhausted the 3 supplementaries, Honorable. We now go to question PQT 9, Zomba Lisanjara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, once again. I rise to confirm that indeed question PQT 9 is from the people of Zomba Lisanjara. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You, Zomba Lisanjara. Your Excellency the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and may I, through you, thank Zomba Lisanjara for the question, PQT 9. The question is, how will your government ensure policy decisions are based on correct facts to avoid such cases involving principal secretaries who are dumped at OPC, of which the President feigned ignorance when asked about the same during last appearance before the House? Madam Speaker, while I'm thankful for the honorable member for this question, I do not accept the underlying assumption thereof. What I mean, Madam Speaker, is that the question assumes that the office of the President and Cabinet is a dumping ground. I reject that philosophy. It must be remembered that the OPC is my office, and I myself work in that office, which I consider to be an honor that Malawians have accorded me. When Malawians sent me to work in this office, it was not because it is a dump, but because it is the place where they trust me to conduct myself as their servant. If anyone working in my office regards that office as more of a dishonorable dumping ground than an honorable opportunity to serve Malawians, then they can resign. Because it's not a dumping ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We now go to question 10, Mzimba South.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I wish to confirm that question PQT 10, appearing on the order paper, really comes from the people of Mzimba South. On behalf of all the youth of this country, I submit, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Mzimba South. Your Excellency the President.
Madam Speaker, through you, let me thank the honorable member of Mzimba South for question PQ10. It has several parts, 3 parts, but basically it is to find out, to ask the President as to why National Youth Service was not included in the national budget for 2020-2021, and is there any plan to include Youth Week in the National Youth Service, and will the National Youth Service have deliberate policy to help improve youth participation and competency in elected offices? And I want to be just as brief. The National Youth Service is indeed our long-term program, Madam Speaker, for skilling and equipping our youth for the job market. We will also use it to resocialize our young people on matters related to national identity, civic engagement, as well as recovery and rehabilitation and volunteerism. Given the enormity of the program, the National Youth Service was not included in the national budget for 2020-2021 to give room to the processes for constituting it, which are not yet completed, but the concept draft is already ready, taking into account the National Youth Council and the Youth Manifesto that I signed. Additionally, it is one of those programs that my administration has every intention of implementing once the financial constraints we are subject to during this COVID-19 pandemic have eased. Even so, the responsible ministry has already commenced a consultation process with the key stakeholders, and its draft concept is now ready, which, without having to say so many words, means that the next budget will certainly consider that. Is there any plan to include Youth Week in the National Youth Service. There is no youth week comparable to what was there during the one-party state.
Your Excellency, I'm sorry to ask you to resume your seat because we need a motion for extension. Sorry, Your Excellency.
Madam Speaker, I stand to beg that we extend time in order to allow the President to respond to the question. Thank you.
Leader of the House, honorable members, we have a motion on the floor. The motion is that we extend time in order to allow the President to respond to all the questions and the 3 supplementaries that will come with the question. Those that of that opinion say aye, and those of the contrary view say no. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Your Excellency, the President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, through you, to the whole House for giving me these extra moments to respond adequately to Mzimba South. The second part of Mzimba South's question was, is there any plan to include Youth Week in the National Youth Service? There is no Youth Week comparable to what was there during the one-party state because my administration's programs are all aimed at upholding the democratic values and principles that we as Malawians voted for in the referendum of 1993. As members will soon see from the conceptual framework that we have developed, the National Youth Service will have 5 pillars, including civic engagement, within which young people will be taken through different leadership training programs that will prepare them for future careers, volunteerism in their communities, and increased participation in and competency for elected offices. So I want to assure this House that what we envision is much broader. And I believe that this nation will be better served through that program. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Is it right that then? The honor of the question, Mzimba South, yes, you have.
It's Rumpi West.
It's Rumpi West, yes, you have the floor.
Welcome back, Your Excellency, to Parliament. And thank you, Madam Speaker, for recognizing Rumpi West to ask a supplementary question to His Excellency, the State President of the Republic of Malawi. In one of your response in terms of youth service, you mentioned the word rehabilitation, and this is in line with the High Five agenda. It is creating wealth, prospering together. But in the long term, within the component of this process, land will be required where youth can be trained and rehabilitated and participate. Looking at most of the areas, land was illegal.
Member for Rumpi West, we need the question. We don't want a statement, we need a question, please.
Will the government identify land in all districts so that the youth benefit equally across the country? Thank you.
Rumpi West, Your Excellency the President.
I'm not sure if I understand. Madam Speaker, thank you so much. And through you, may I also extend gratitude to Rumpi West for a supplementary question regarding National Youth Service, but particularly zeroing in on availability of land to them for rehabilitation. Like I said, when you're talking about 5 pillars that will be covered in this program nationwide, it's not necessarily a matter of saying everything will require land. We will make sure young people are skilled and empowered to do what young people are doing across the world. Some of the most successful young people don't even have 1 hectare. They have a computer. We will follow whatever will be needed. But if you look at this land, you will find that just about 20% of arable land is productive. We can expand what we intend to do through young people that will have been trained and skilled in order to utilize this land for productive means. When we talk about mega farms, it's the young people that's going to do that. But there are already farms that are lying idle in this country and hardly have anything even this season. And then we're talking about irrigation schemes all over this country through the Green Belt Authority and other means. There will be plenty. However, to say that you should apportion land equally, then you say, what will happen to youth in Likoma Islands? No, we will use Malawi's resources the best we can, knowing that everyone does deserve something to work with, to make money and prosper for the sake of all of the nation. So what I'm saying here is in general terms, but be assured, Rumpi West, that youth's concerns, particularly the energy that they have, will be maximized so it's used to develop in this country like we've never seen. Thank you.
And then Mulanje, Southwest.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just have 2 supplementary questions. One, the President has mentioned about National Youth Council. So I wanted to inquire because currently the National Youth Council does not have a functional board. The first one, which was appointed, I think it had some issues. Then another one was reappointed and so on. So what is the status of the governance system in as far as National Youth Council is concerned, considering that, as he has put it, that the draft concept of the National Youth Service is still in the pipeline. So we need governance at National Youth Council. What's the status? The second question is about who are we targeting in this National Youth Council? This National Youth Service. Which youth are we targeting? Are these post-secondary or post-college? Or are we targeting the youth that are in the youth clubs affiliated to National Youth Council? Because we have a number of youth in this country, but they are segmented into different sections. So which youth are we targeting? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
You, Honorable Member for Chikwawa, is it Chikwawa North? Yes, Your Excellency the President.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much. Through you, let me express deep gratitude to Chikwawa North for this 2-pronged question as a follow-up. What status has the Youth Council have as of now? And then which youth are you targeting? Because we have different categories. Let me just state in using one of the most favorite phrases developed by the UN, the United Nations, leaving no one behind. We do not intend for any youth to be left out. There will be different activities and programs that youth at various stages will be involved in. So we're not just looking at college-age youth or after secondary school or primary school or even dropouts. We're looking at all of them. We're looking at youth in the villages, we're looking at youth in the cities, we're looking at youth that may have formal education, we're looking at those who did not have formal education. Because you can still develop skills at different levels depending on how they are variously endowed. So, moving on to what is the status of the National Youth Council at this stage, because he says I had mentioned it in my response, and he wants to know what is his status. This is a central piece in our comprehensive understanding of what youth issues should be. And so over the years, we've had the National Youth Council, but the emphasis sometimes has always been on them coming out with policies. But like we have always lamented in this country, we have beautiful policies on our shelves, and they never get implemented. So what we're trying to do is take the best of that and take the best of what we can learn from Zambia or Kenya or other places and integrate all of this within our context and say what would be best to serve us in this country. In terms of its leadership, we have legislative issues that we need to follow, and if he has specific issues he wants us to follow up on, he is welcome to even consult us and the youth, and then we can respond to that. But in this general policy framework, I'm talking about leaving no youth behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honour Member for Mulanje South West. Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Your
And
mask,
through
Honourable
you,
Member. Can.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And through you, I would like to thank the President for having come to Parliament and also be given a chance to make a supplementary question. My question, Right Honourable Speaker, is to ask the President whether the issue of empowering the youth and the issue of National Youth Service has any bearing to the 75 MCP youth who are currently at Ntakataka police station, who are receiving training in the use of guns. Thank you.
Can I have order, please? Can I have order, honourable members? Can we have order, please, honourable members? Your Excellency the President, Leader of the House.
Yeah, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our standing orders are very clear. Any issues to do with the security is not discussed in Parliament. So this issue is to do with the training, and we can't discuss the training of security personnel in this House.
Honorable members, I was just consulting. I sustain the honorable leader of the House's point of order. Point of order sustained. Honorable members, you're rising on what we've exhausted the 3 supplementaries. We've already exhausted them. Yeah, also. Since we didn't have a lady, you yield to the honorable member for Chikwawa. Is it Chikwawa Central? Sorry, Chikwawa West.
Chikwawa West. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving a chance to the people of Chikwawa West to ask the question to His Excellency the President. I would like to find out from the President if government has considered establishing a special fund for innovations, whereby students and youth in general can be challenged to come up with innovations and which can be tested and adopted. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Chikwawa West. Your Excellency the President. The question is to do with innovation. Sorry, maybe you want to repeat the question, Chikwawa West.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My question is if government has considered coming up with establishing a special fund for innovations where students and youth in general can come up with innovations which can be tested and adopted. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Chikwawa West. Your Excellency the President.
Madam Speaker, I'm extremely delighted by this question from Chikwawa West. And through you, may I express my thanks, because this is at the heart of what the modern generation really requires in terms of empowerment, because this is a generation that will not accept the status quo. They are involved in innovation, and what we have tried to do with regard to the National Empowerment Fund is to allow for such innovative ideas be sponsored in a way that will help these young people develop those ideas or turn those ideas into reality. If and when we find out that some of these innovative young people are being denied access to such funds because of certain bureaucratic processes, remember that I have, even within my office now, established an innovative hub. And we will be able, therefore, to do all we can to make sure that no impediment is placed before someone that is creative and innovative and wants to do something to push this country forward. I think the days are gone when some of our brightest minds are snatched away from us by countries either east or west or north of us, or even south. And then we don't benefit from such innovative ideas. Our intent is to create a conducive environment in which these young people can feel at home inventing stuff. I thank you for that question because, Madam Speaker, I think this is at the heart of all of this. Some of the young people may not even be able to finish formal schooling, but their ideas can be identified and then encouraged so they can prosper. Thank you.
Much, Your Excellency. Honorable members, we are now through with today's business. This marks the end of our question time. Head of the House.
It's about time.
Proceedings in Parliament as President Lazarus Chakwera appeared before the House to answer members' questions. And that's it today from Times Television. Mene voto zinalili mnyumba ya malamulo pamene mtsogoleri wa dziko lino Dr. Lazarus Chakwera amayankha mafunso a aphungu mnyumba ya malamulo. Khalani pomwepo pamene Times Television ikupatsireni maprogramu ena.
In this digital age, information travels faster than we could ever imagine.
Every minute, news feeds and audiovisual content pop up on our screens, making it difficult to separate facts from fiction, the truth from lies.
Every